January 6, 1942. Berlin. In a dim room inside the old Reich Chancellery, Hermann Göring, Reichsmarshal and head of the Luftwaffe, sat hunched over a thin stack of intelligence reports. He read the same page again and again, unable to accept what he was seeing. America had announced its intention to build 50,000 military aircraft per year. He smirked. Almost laughing, Göring repeated a phrase later documented in post-war interrogations. The Americans? They can't even build the machines they drive. At the time, it seemed logical. In 1940, the United States produced only 3,611 military aircraft, less than what Germany manufactured in a few months. The Luftwaffe dominated Europe's skies, and the Reich believed American industry was slow, scattered, and completely unprepared for total war. But that same month, across the Atlantic, something was happening that German intelligence had entirely misjudged. President Franklin Roosevelt had called an emergency meeting with his military chiefs and top industrial leaders. He declared that America must become the arsenal of democracy, and that U.S. factories would begin shifting to wartime output immediately. Enter a man who would change the industrial landscape of the 20th century. William Knudsen, former president of General Motors, who agreed to work for a symbolic salary of $1 per year. Knudsen wasn't a general, he wasn't even in the military, but he understood mass production better than anyone alive. He gathered the leaders of Ford, Chrysler, Packard, Douglas, and North American Aviation, and told them something that sounded impossible. Everything you do, everything you know, turn it toward the war effort. And American factories began to transform. Civilian cars vanished from assembly lines. In their place came aluminum panels, engine mounts, and aircraft components. Small aviation shops expanded into vast manufacturing complexes. The boldest plan was Ford's new factory in Michigan, Willow Run. Henry Ford promised to build a line capable of producing the B-24 Liberator heavy bomber with the same efficiency as the Model T. German intelligence dismissed it as propaganda. The idea that a four-engine bomber could be built like an automobile was absurd. Yet Knudsen, Charles Sorensen, and Ford's engineers were constructing the largest factory in the world, a mile-long production giant where the wings, fuselage, tail section, and engines would all be manufactured simultaneously and meet at one continuous line. Meanwhile, Germany continued to underestimate the United States. Abwehr and Luftwaffe reports in 1941 stated confidently, American aircraft production cannot exceed 30,000 units under any circumstances. They believed the U.S. workforce lacked discipline, the economy was too decentralized, and democratic industry was incapable of wartime coordination. But a quiet revolution was underway. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers. By 1943, 310,000 women would work in the aviation industry alone, riveting panels, assembling engines, running lathes, and working night shifts under a fast, efficient, standardized production system. By the end of 1942, U.S. aircraft output had quadrupled, and still Berlin laughed. But by early 1943, as Germany suffered setbacks in North Africa and over Stalingrad, the Luftwaffe began facing a new reality. American aircraft were arriving in Europe faster than Germany could shoot them down. And this was only the beginning. Göring still mocked American industry in public, but privately he stared at numbers that no longer made sense. He had no idea that the United States was preparing a production strike that Germany would never recover from. March 1943, Berlin. One cold March evening, Hermann Göring opened a new intelligence report. The folder was thin, but its contents hit harder than any Allied bomb. According to multiple sources, the United States was now producing aircraft faster than the Luftwaffe could destroy them. Göring repeated his usual line, that Americans could do nothing without machines, but those around him noticed it. His voice no longer carried the same confidence. Meanwhile, in the United States, the impossible was becoming reality. Willow Run was fully operational. This massive factory, nearly a mile long, built on former Michigan farmland, became the ultimate symbol of America's industrial power. By spring 1943, B-24 Liberators were rolling off its line every few hours. A year later, Willow Run would produce one bomber every 63 minutes. Germany dismissed these numbers as Allied exaggeration, until aerial reconnaissance confirmed the truth. Photos showed vast lots filled with brand new aircraft, more than German planners believed the entire U.S. could build in a year. And Willow Run was only one piece of the machine. Douglas expanded its Santa Monica and Long Beach plants. North American Aviation increased production of the P-51 Mustang, the fighter that would soon dominate European skies. Boeing scaled up B-17 Flying Fortress output. Grumman delivered carrier fighters by the thousands. All of it flowed under a single, coordinated system, the War Production Board. For the first time, German analysts reached a conclusion that shook the Reich. In 1943, the United States would produce more aircraft than Germany, Italy, and Japan combined. German officers tried to reassure themselves. They insisted the Luftwaffe flew superior machines, that German pilots were the best in the world, that precision could overcome quantity. But reality was brutal. Every lost Luftwaffe aircraft meant losing a trained pilot, Germany's scarcest resource. But when an American plane went down, another arrived days later. Sometimes the same pilot returned in a new machine within a week. By late 1943, the U.S. officially surpassed 85,000 aircraft produced in a single year. The numbers were undeniable. Multiple intelligence sources corroborated them. Each report was worse than the last. Meanwhile, the democratic system Germany mocked became its greatest enemy. Millions of workers from every background powered the American war machine. More than 310,000 women labored in aviation, riveting, welding, assembling, testing. It was a workforce the Axis simply could not match. In spring 1944, a staggering new report reached the Luftwaffe High Command. U.S. aircraft production was on track to hit 100,000 per year. With the Allies preparing to invade Western Europe, Germany understood it would not be facing merely an army. It would be confronting the largest industrial mobilization in human history. And then came the moment Göring could not hide from. Late in 1944, in a closed meeting with senior officers, he admitted something he had never said before, an admission later recorded in the Nuremberg transcripts. "We are not losing on the battlefields. We are losing in the factories." But the final blow came after Germany's surrender. Sitting in a cell, faced with the same production numbers he once mocked, Göring finally stated the truth. "When I saw the American factories, I knew the war was lost. We fought against an industrial world, not an army." He had laughed at America's plan for 50,000 planes. America built 295,959.